Hey y'all, thanks for joining us again over here at Colorful Situations, where we are going to do a recap of episode 6.
Yes. We were talking about, those people who like to have things, their way and XYZ or ABC and triple AZ and all of those things, not gonna name somebody, but somebody I know very dear and close to me. That's what we talked about. We talked about control.
You got to have a plan, starting with A, just in case A don't work, you had to go to Z. Or, as you said, a triple A, then to triple Z, because things happen and you got to be prepared for each one of them.
Yeah.
So, yes, you have to have a plan. But that doesn't make me, that's not what makes me a controller. Controller is, well, what makes me the controller is wanting those things and just something on the inside of me needing to have those things done, which I think she was calling it a control freak or something like that. I don't know, but I'm good. And again, I'm not bragging.
Yes. Well, so we know that's what we talked about, right? And we had a good time with it. We were laughing. She had me laughing the whole time. So it was a really good thing. We did have some comments. One was a controller and one was somebody like me, which was a flexible, they call it indecisive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, whatever. However, we did have some comments, so thank y'all. Thank y'all for commenting. We love that. We love the interaction that we have. I had some people who kind of talked to me outside of the messaging. They don't like to put the comments in there, but it was a good topic. A lot of people it was a buzz. People were talking about it.
Yeah. And it was interesting to see the two different sides, even though we are the two different sides of it, we just see two different sides from two other people, just to get those responses. It was actually pretty interesting to read those. So
it was. And ultimately, it just kind of came down to, hey, you know what? Let's just assume good intent when somebody is trying to do something, right? Know what their intent are, know it. And I heard something that said, if you know that the person is doing it out of love, then it's easier for you to take because you know that they're doing it out of love. So maybe that's something that we can put into play. But then on the other side of that, the flexible one was just like, yeah, I have a wife that's a controller. It's okay. But she knows the balance because I do give that face and speak up when it's time for it to be like, okay, yeah, enough is enough. So, there's some ebb and flows there. And we did talk about the good thing is that in that because being with someone who can do all of the planning and have everything together, you can know that it's going to be right, right? And I will say, having her in this journey with me, there are a lot of people or a lot of things that people will say, well, y'all doing this? Y'all already got that? And I'm like, yes, we are. We do have all of these things. We did have a plan. We did kind of, even though y'all had to hold on for a while for a couple of little small shorts before we got videos coming out, but it was all for the good and all because I have a controller who had a plan.
And then on the other hand, having Miss Indecisive here, even though she's indecisive, she has this creative thing going on up here, and which is I think is a part of that indecisiveness. It plays a role somewhere. I don't really know because I'm just regular, but the role that she plays is just as important as being a controller, a planner. So that part of it, that indecisiveness, we balance each other out, like I said. And like the commenter said, she balances her wife out and it's okay with her. It's okay. Yeah. She can just sit back and watch some TV or something while her wife is worrying about all of this other kind of stuff. And her wife can worry about all that other kind of stuff and not have to worry about other things. So it's a good thing.
For sure. It really does. And just, everybody thinks differently. Everybody does things differently. And That's saying there is more than one way to get something done, right? However, sometimes there is a little bit better way of doing things or a more efficient way
Right.
of doing things. And so for people who really want things in line, it's just because they can see the efficiency. And for people who are flexible, I do think that it does have something to do with the creative side, or just being kind of like seeing a whole bunch of different options, right? So when you do have to move or shift, it's like, oh, well, this option over here, or we could just go down two roads and have two options going and not, settle on one. But not everybody can take that because it's a little, a lot going on in the brains of those who can do that. But ultimately, what I want to say to color beams out there everywhere, no matter who you are, the controller or the flexible, you are important. You bring something to the table, and you will find a balance. You will find a yin to your yang.
I agree. And when you do, it's gonna fall. It's just gonna click together like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Y'all will just fall in line, and things will flow, and sometimes they won't, but they'll get back on track, especially if y'all are working together. As long as you're working together, if you're a controller and a flexible person, as long as you are working together, things will get done either way, whether it's the long road or the short road. And it makes me think about my wife and I, of course, So I was looking at it in the steps that I know.
Yeah.
But she was looking at it in the steps that she knew. And neither one of us, probably to this day, we still hadn't gotten together when it was that we were talking about it. We probably either decided not to do it or found another way to do it. But in that way, it just showed that we were both trying to reach the same goal. And that's just ultimately what it's about. As long as we got the same goal that we're trying to reach.
Yeah.
Whether I'm a controller and she's not even a big deal. Not even a big deal.
Yeah, true. And you find that it simply isn't. Sometimes when you look down at it, it's simply not a big deal. You can just get together, move towards that goal that you have, and get it done. So our question this week was, is a control freak a perfectionist? Is a control freak a perfectionist? And a lot of y'all said no. I don't know if that means that a lot of y'all are control freaks. Maybe that's what it means. But majority of everybody said no, that it's two different things. What do you think?
Actually, I might need to look up this word in the dictionary. I still don't feel like I'm a perfectionist. Even though I would like things to go a certain way, it doesn't mean that I want them to go perfectly. Yeah. I mean, even though I do feel like my way is the right way, I know that my way is not always perfect. I know it's not the only way. Yeah. So I don't try to, the things that I know that I could get perfect, like
bagels.
Listen. I've been trying to make these bagels from scratch, and I have not got them, but I'm still going. I'm still working on it, and I'm gonna work to get the perfect bagel, but it's not something, I'm not going crazy about it.
And I think that's what everybody is saying. Because you are controlled enough to go through X, Y, or A, B, and C to get the bagel, you're not driving yourself crazy to be like, oh, I'm gonna cut a fourth. It just got to be a fourth of flour and this of sugar, and it has to be this amount, and I have to dough it for this amount, and no. You're going through trial and error, and I don't think that a perfectionist will take a lot of trial and error. They want to get it done right and perfect the very first time.
Okay, well, no, that's not me. Even though when you are following a recipe, you have to have precise measurements. So I might have to go and get me a scale so that I can weigh out my. See, that's how you know she gonna be making stuff. That's how you know she don't bake stuff, because when you bake stuff, if you're following a recipe, you have to take into account the person whose recipe you're following. They may be somewhere up north, somewhere where it's really cold, somewhere where it's extra hot, somewhere where their stove might get hotter than yours. They may be working with a gas stove. They may be working with just different things. So you have to take those things into account. And if I go and try someone's recipe that's up north and I have all of the measurements together, if I have exactly 1/4 cup, 1/3 cup, then I'll know I followed their recipe perfectly, but there's something else that I have to tweak. So I don't think, making sure that my measurements are perfect, I don't think that's a perfectionist. I think that's trying to follow the recipe to the T. So,
Okay.
uh,
Well, I'll say, I don't know. Well, I don't know. So, I will never be a perfectionist because I just, it's okay. It's all right. But I will say sometimes on certain things, I do hold myself to a high standard. Um, like at work or me just being very driven and trying to get something done, that determination will go high. Me working out in boot camp, sometimes people may look at me or people may say, well, why are you going so hard? Why are you doing this? Or why does it have to be the perfect? And I don't look at it as in being perfect. It's just determined to just get there. But I'm just kind of real relaxed in my thinking around other things. So yeah, I don't. Y'all are right because I have no thought on that.
well, yeah, we're right. Everybody, we're right. Controllers are not perfectionists. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I know I used a lot of strong language when we were having that conversation. Like controller. Controller is something that might be a trigger for someone. I'm not a controller, controller.
Okay.
What I was saying about the things that you are required to do, that someone else is required. I use that kind of language because I'm pretty direct.
Yeah.
I'm pretty direct. And ultimately, that's what it is in talking about what someone is required to do or being a controller. Again, not bragging. Listen, I'm for the straight shooters.
Yeah.
That's it. I just want to put that out there.
That is true. That's true. And I don't think it was harsh language. I hope that it wasn't harsh for anybody.
Well, like I said, some people can be triggered by being referred to as a controller, or somebody could be triggered by somebody saying, well, you're required to do this in a relationship, so this is what you need to do. Like I said about my wife and how I allow her to do. Of course, I don't allow her to do anything, but this is for direct straight shooter. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
If you want to take it, if you're triggered by it, then that's what I was saying. So
okay. Well, yes. Disclaimer: we don't want to do that. This is a safe place for you and for everybody to use your language, and we are going to have good thoughts, that you have good intents on your using your words and what you need to say. Yeah. All of the above. All of the above. So y'all, that's your recap for this week. We had a good conversation. It was about control, knowing the intent behind it, and that they're not perfectionists, right? They just want things to run smoothly and effectively. And we can gain a lot of good things out of that. So, hey, I'm here for it. And hope y'all here for it too.
Yeah. Yeah, we have an episode coming up on Wednesday. Yes. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, and look out for that episode over on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts at Colorful Situations.
Yes.
And remember, not all colorful situations are the same, but you have the power to change your hue.